My name is Colleen McInnes, and I'm an addict, a disc golf addict. So I've been playing for quite a few years now. I started in 2014. My home course is Bronte, which I kind of share with Christy Lake. Both of them are very close to home, and both have really nice clubs of just amazing people. So I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about my in the bag and all the discs that I've chosen to throw that I deem worthy to be in here. First, the bag itself, I actually got this at the provincial championship for Ontario Provincial Championship. It's got a nice embroidery here on the front and a bunch of things that I've collected along the way, little knickknacks all on here. Something for one of my favorite tournaments, Screaming Heads. That's up north, and it's just an amazing festival. So I like to decorate a little bit, give it a little personality. I like this bag because it's really nice and big, keeps all the stuff that I need during the events in there, which we'll go through in a little bit. So we'll start off with my putters. These are my main putters. I throw a Special Blend Wizard. Not the most popular brand. I know a lot of people who know Gateway. This is pretty much the only disc they know. But it is just such a useful disc. I really like the Special Blend plastic. It's a blend of a lot of their different plastics, and I carry two, so they have a little rivalry. This is my main putter. I've had it for a while. You can see it's really beaten up, and this is a new one I've just put in my bag. I actually lost my throwing putter the other day. I threw it in the water at Centennial Park, and so this is the new one, and it's trying to eventually replace this one, so it's trying it out for now. We'll see if it stays in the bag. These are really useful for me. I do a lot of jump putting, and that's instrumental in my game. I find no matter how far you can drive, if you don't have a good upshot, you're not going to contend. So that jump putt has really improved my ability to compete at a high level. I highly recommend the Wizards for that. A little bit of understableness, but it really gives you that distance. So those are my go-tos. Another putter, I have two of them, and I'll talk about this one first, is the Swan. So this is a regular Swan, and it's understable. This is like a get out of jail card for me, especially this one. This one is the hard plastic, or the Swan Reborn. It's more understable. So often you have two discs, exactly the same disc, and they actually have different numbers on them. So this one is minus 2.5. This one's a -1. So this one I'm gonna putt with, especially if I'm going around something, around a tree, but this one is just insanely understable. I can throw this into the air and it'll still go right. It's crazy. Sometimes I'll pull this out and be doing a backhand, and right before I throw, people's faces are hilarious. They're like, is she sure she should do this? Yeah, no doubt I am 100% confident with this to always turn over for me. So something I really rely on. So those are kind of utility discs for me. I have one more putter, which is actually not being made anymore. Shout out to DD. Start making more of these, please. The Slammer is super overstable. It's like the justice of putters. It's so useful, especially when you're doing a drive that's very short, but you really have to bend that corner and you don't want to throw mid-range. It's very reliable. You can't possibly turn it over. So another utility disc that I put in my bag a lot. I actually got this as a CTP, and I know this is, shout out to Brampton Club, this is something that a lot of people there throw, so it's a favorite of mine. So those are my putters. I typically bag about 5 of them. And then for mid-ranges, the Fusion Truth. This is my favorite mid-range. I throw this a lot. I throw it a lot during a round. Some courses, this is sometimes all I drive with. It's so reliable to go straight. If I'm really having a lot of anxiety about trees and tunnel shots, this is what I go to. I have no doubt about it, and it's something that no matter how many trees I hit, it's still reliable for me, and that's kind of hard to find. You find all these discs that beat in. I can beat it in and it's still reliable, so that's when I really lean on for mid-ranges. And then I have 2 rocks. I have a V-Rock. So this one is for the Beaches course in Toronto. beautiful course. They're having a tournament, and they've just installed a new course, Maryland Bell. So they're having a Beaches and Bell tournament, which I'm so pumped for. It's a nice pitch and putt course, and it's something that you can take a new person to that has never played or just wants to throw a frisbee, and they will fall in love with this game right away. So Toronto and Beaches, thank you. And then this disc is a V-Rock, so a little bit different than this rock. This is a Rock 3. And this is my home club, Bronte Creek Disc Golf. It's something that I've beaten in to be a little bit more understable. So I do not throw it flat typically. I have to hyzer it to get it to hyzer, or a little bit of Annie and it'll flip over for me. It's a very versatile disc, but it is something that I cherish just because of it being brawny, and I use a lot. Another DD, not making this anymore. Please make the warrants. I love this disc. It is understable. It's so useful. I almost got an ace with it yesterday at up north at the Dads of Muskoka course, and it is just a beautiful turnover shot for you no matter what. I can hyzer it, keep it to go straight a little bit longer, and then flip over, or throw it flat, and it really takes that early turn. So this is something that I rely on because I'm still working on and developing my flicks. So I would love if DD maybe started making these again. And I did clear them out of stock, so I have a few backups just in case. And then this is my last utility mid-range. I don't throw this as much, but it is a Justice. A lot of people who throw mixed bags will tell you this is a very useful disc to have, especially people who flick. I know it's something that you can turn over and rely on to come back. And I use that a lot in my backhand, turn it over to make sure it finishes. So like I said with the slammer, I'm gonna use this on shots that it's a very hard left turn, and I wanna make sure that it hyzers out for me. This Sandy Hollow is one of the most fun tournaments. They just got these really cool trophies this year. Big memory for me and Chris was we both won that tournament and got to share a win together. But it's just a phenomenal course. So shout out to Barry there. And there's one last mid-range. This is something new in my bag. I got these RPM discs at Worlds last year. I met up with some of the people from RPM in New Zealand, particularly Haley Flintoff, and Jacko, and it's a Piwaka Waka, which is a super fun name to say, Piwaka Waka, and it's an approach disc, a mid-range. It's understable, so I find it's a little bit in between something that's stable that you're trying to turn over versus my warrant that will just flip like crazy. So I don't have to try to turn this over, and it's very simple the turn that it does. It doesn't do it too hard. So I'm liking this a lot. This is brand new in my bag. Maybe put something on here in the future. Maybe a Colleen McInnes stamp, who knows? So that's something new that I got. And thank you very much to those RPM players. So drivers, I tend to throw a lot of fairway drivers. My go-to, Escape. I could play a whole round with this and a putter. It's so versatile. I lean on this a lot. Like I said with my Truth, if there's a tunnel shot and I'm just wanting to get as far down the tunnel as I can, this is what I'll lean on. Truth is more something that I want to get straight and shorter. This is a very reliable distance driver. It is a little bit understable, but especially this one that I've beaten well. I did get this from Brianna Ainsley. She's shout out to you in BC. We are loving the stuff you're doing. She just got back from Thailand and repping us in Canada. So I want to give a shout out to her, and I actually got this disc from her because I played a tournament with her, threw my disc in the water, and then mid-round she ran over and grabbed this for me to be able to put in my bag and use right away, and it comforted me a lot, but it meant a lot. She let me keep it. And then I ended up getting an ace with it at my local club, so that was a great memory to have from her. So that one's one of my favorites. And then I have a Jade. I know locally a lot of people know I throw this. It is ridiculously understable, and it is so reliable for me to get around things. I feel like I throw it really well, and that's a lot of why I can use it. It is dangerous. It's a dangerous game to be throwing a lot of understable, but with me not having a confident distance flick, it is something that I lean on. And whenever you get to those courses that are super lefty friendly, especially when I'm playing Sandy Hendel, this is something that I can go with. So I have a few of these, a lot of backups, because it's something that I could not go to a tournament without. So the Jade, another thing about this is it's an easy to use fairway driver. These are really light, and they are made for beginners. So recently Latitude has just come out with heavier versions of the Jade, the Diamond, and a few other discs. So people who really enjoy these discs can now use them as a heavier disc that because really when you're throwing light discs in the wind, it's a bit of a risk. So to have a heavier version of the same disc is really nice. So I just picked up a few of those, and hopefully you'll see one in my bag soon. So speaking of which, I'm just gonna flip through and find that. So this is the Diamond. It is the heavy 170 carat diamond. So that's what I was talking about with the Jade. These are a lot heavier than what they would normally come out with. And this went in my bag right away. It is a little bit more understable than something like an Escape. And it just glides. It glides for days, and I can trust this in the wind. So I immediately did put this in my bag. And I'm trying it out. I really like it. So I highly recommend this, especially for women who have been playing for a while and kind of want to bump up that edge. This is something that you could look into. So, and I have two of these. These are definitely something that I smile when I pull it out of my bag. They're both the same disc. It's a Convict. Different stability on them, depending on how much you hit a tree, really, is going to change a disc. I got these from Paige Pierce when I was touring last year. I went down to the States. I picked this one up from her, and when I was at Worlds, I threw it in the water, and it was like so close to being in bounds, hit the bricks and went in, and I was so upset. And after the round, I saw Paige. We were chatting out in the clubhouse, and I told her that I had lost this, and she was so sweet. She went and got one out of her car, pulled it right out of her backup discs, and gave this one to me. And so it was a very personal, great connection that I've made with Paige. I played with her a lot, and she's just a phenomenal role model in the game. Can't say enough good things about her, but to go and give me a disc because I lost one was just, it goes to show the kind of friendships that you build in this environment. So those are pretty cool. A lot of people say I'm crazy to throw a Paige Pierce signed disc, but you know, she's switched over to Discraft, so who cares about these now? But I know that she'll always sign more for me, so no worries about that. This is my Saint Pro. So again, I throw this a lot. It's the same color as my Escape, so I have thrown it accidentally, thinking it was my Escape. But it is something that I use a lot. It flies similar to my Escape, but I have a lot more confidence in it hyzering out a little bit more. So it's going to be something that I throw straight with very little fade. Very reliable for a straight tunnel shot. Again, same as the Escape. It's something that I lean on for wooded courses and things like that. Which when you go to big tournaments like Worlds, there's a lot of trees. They don't like to make it easy. So I've got that one in there. I just recently put this Saint in as well. I'm actually trying out both of these. This one actually still has the sticker on it, but I'm trying out both of these Saints to kind of see if I like either of them. This is another Saint Pro, but it's the Johnny McRae series, so it is a little bit, I find it a little bit more overstable. I'm hoping to kind of work one of these in, eventually just choose one that I want to keep, and work it in a little bit more, smash a few trees with it to get it to where I like it. And this one's just the normal Saint. So the Saint Pro tends to be a little bit more understable for you. Definitely something I'd recommend for women. It's a lot of guys out there telling you to throw a Thunderbird, throw a Firebird, throw a Destroyer. Realistically, it's a lot better for you to throw things that you're going to be comfortable with and confident with, and not necessarily what the guys say. So that's something that I've learned over the years. So those Saints. And then this is a new addition to my bag because I lost this disc. It's a Color-Glo Firebird. These are kind of hard to get. They are usually only done for tournament discs, so it's not something that you can buy online, which is really frustrating because when I lost mine, I threw it over a fence into private property, and I didn't want to go get it. Someone texted me that they found it. Of course, you're like, yeah, okay, bring it to this tournament or whatever. Never got it back. So if you're watching this, I'd love my Firebird back. But Ryan Clare, shout out to Toplink. He gave me this. He heard that I had lost it. I talked to him about it. He went out of his way to find it. This is actually from his personal collection. So, I mean, that guy's going above and beyond, especially for his team. So I really appreciate that. And it's got the Barrie Disc Golf Club stamp on it. Shout out to Barrie, Dad's Muskoka, Sandy Hollow, Midland. That community up there is amazing. And I know South River comes down a lot to hang out with those guys. So I was just up at the Dads and Muskoka course. Highly recommend. It is phenomenal. Kids can go and play, and we'll have a blast walking around in the forest. So if you're looking for a fun course, head out to Barrie. So that Firebird, really overstable. And then I have two Thunderbirds in here. So this is probably, if you asked me off the top of my head, it would be my favorite disc. I know I've said that about a few, but if I feel like I'm not having a good round or just not feeling it that day, I can grab this disc and throw it, and I know what it's gonna do. I can completely rely on it. Like I said about the Escape, I could go use that as I go play a course, just take that disc out and play. Even more so with this. The Pro plastic, this is a pre-tooled disc, which means that it doesn't have the embossing on the inside where it says Thunderbird. So this is the old Pro plastic. I find it to be a little bit more understable, which is really what I like. I can get max distance out of this because when it's a little bit more understable, it's flipping up and then hyzering out. So it's really getting the maximum distance that you can get with it. So this is something that I use especially when I'm like, I gotta throw this far. And this is a disc that I got from Brandon the other day. Thank you, Brandon. And it's a Jeremy Cooling series. So it's a little bit more overstable, actually a lot more overstable. It's not gonna flip like this one will. So it is reminiscent of a Firebird. It's going to be very reliable hyzer disc. The more snap you get, the more distance you're going to get out of it. But it is max weight, so that can be a deterrent for a lot of women. I've only recently been comfortable with throwing max weight. I've always looked for the 168, 169 kind of range. So 175 doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a little bit more. So you're really having to get that snap on. So Thunderbirds, very, very comfortable with those. And then the last disc I have is a Turn. So this is the only distance driver I bag. I actually, depending on what the tournament that I go to, my bag might look a little bit different. So at some tournaments, I might also have my Pro Turn in here. This Turn is very understable, and it's a very specific disc that I use. The Turn is supposed to flex out, but this EcoStar plastic is so understable, and I've beaten this in a lot, that when I throw this disc, I can get 200 feet distance before it turns and flips over to turn into a roller and get more distance out of that. So it is something that, especially when you're in trees, particularly there was a hole last year at Worlds where you had to throw out to this left gap, and then you had to flip it over because there was trees there, and then you had to hyzer back, and then the basket was still, no matter where you landed, it was still another 200 feet. So this gave me a little bit of edge on that because I'm getting it just as far as the other women, and then that roll takes it, gets it to go even further. So definitely a utility disc. The other Turn that I throw is, it gives me a similar line to my Thunderbird, and in certain winds I really can get more distance out of it, but Definitely something that I lean on as a utility, not necessarily a main thrower. So those are my drivers and distance drivers. And then just a little bit of what I carry through a round. I always have a water bottle. You gotta stay hydrated. Got all my little stamps on here. Paige Pierce, Bronte Creek Disc Golf Club. This is the original stamp for Ontario Tour. Latitude, and shout out to our maritime friends. Canadian Nationals this year I'm going to make it to, so I'm so excited about that. I went 2 years ago and it was just phenomenal experience. They really put a world-class tournament together, so I'm very excited for that. Normally on this side I'll have a coffee for sure, especially during a tournament. Got to keep myself aware and focused. And then in the sides, I like this bag because it does, these pockets actually even open up a little bit more to give you more space. It's the Hero Pack, and keep a jacket in there in case it gets a little colder. Got some spare mittens and a few towels in here. On this side, I've got my Bluetooth speaker, keep the jams going during a round, usually only casual rounds, and then a bunch of snacks. So Jack's Links, we got some crispers in here. Everyone always laughs when I pull these out because they are totally for kids, but they are so good. And they don't freeze. So when we're playing winter golf and you need a snack, sometimes it sucks to always have nuts, right? So you get something a little bit more fruity. So those are really nice. And then this was a recent Valentine's Day gift from my love. So I got some Reese's Pieces, and they have little pieces of Reese's in them. If you don't know already, put Reese's Pieces in the freezer and then eat them. They're so much better because the chocolate freezes, but the peanut butter is still really gooey. It's so good. So winter snacks, that's a go-to. And then I do have just the typical stuff in here. Some Kleenex, got a stash mini for all those aces, you know. Got a cozy for post-round refreshments. And then a med bag. Funny story about why this is in my bag. I was at Provincials a few years ago, and everyone's done this. You are too close to a tree. You know you're too close to a tree. You know that you have to throw through the tree to make the shot, and you go, it's fine. My hand won't hit the tree. And your hand hits the tree. So that happened, and it happened on a card where nobody on my card had a Band-Aid. And even if they did, it was my throwing hand, and it was right here, so that's gonna affect my grip. A great tip that one of the girls on my card gave me was you can take tree sap and rub it between your fingers. It's a natural adhesive, and it's also an antiseptic. So that was a good quick fix to make me stop bleeding. But it did make me realize that there's a lot of things you might need on the course. Tweezers, if you've ever gotten a splinter or a thorn in your hand, that's the worst. So tweezers have been really helpful, and Band-Aids and stuff like that. So many people have come up to me and asked me if I have Advil, those hangovers. So the last few things in here, I got a Hacky Sack. Definitely a fun thing to do, especially if you're on those big round tournaments and you get a hang up. Super fun. I got a Cliff Bar, gotta keep that energy up, get a little variety in the snacks, and then I have a mini in here. This mini, Brianna Ainsley makes these in BC, so she sent me out a few, and really trying to support her tour. It's hard to be a touring pro, and it's even harder to be a touring female, so you might see a lot of touring pros buy each other's discs while they're out on tour. It's just a little nod to each other. Give each other some support, but these are really fantastic. She's got them for sale if you look her up online. Look her up on Instagram, so that's really cool. Definitely don't recommend using it in the winter though. It slides across the snow. And then just the last few things in here. Another Vortica Mini, just to have multiples. I can't tell you how many times I've come up to a card and they're like, oh my god, I forgot my mini, it's in the car, and yeah, sure, I got an extra for you. So the Stash Mini actually doubles as a good solution to that as well. And then Toronto Island Maple Leaf. This is the Timmel tournament that we have every year. It hasn't been running the last few years due to the conditions on the island, but this one year we got these and they are beautiful. I've gotten this wet. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't fall apart. It's amazing. It holds your scorecard really well. So that's something that I have. I've had one stolen and I had to get another one, so they're that popular. And then, of course, Canadian disc golf. You are definitely going to need these in the winter. Hand warmers. Yeah, it gets cold. There's been a few times where even if you take your mitts off, you do not want to keep them off for that long. So hand warmers, definitely something that I'd keep on me. And then, last but not least, I got a Alisa Van Lanen whale sack. So these are made by Tina Oakley. And Alisa Van Lanen does a lot of coverage. She does all the photography for the PDGA. She's really good friends with Paige. So these whale sacks are amazing. I don't know what she puts in them, but they're so helpful, especially as a female. We don't like to talk about it, but we get like really sweaty, clammy hands all the time. We're women, we get hot and then abnormally cold all the time. Guys are like furnaces, but I find that no matter what my hand's doing, it helps to dry it out, keep it clean, keep it fresh, so that snap's really going. I'm not getting all those weird things that happen like grip lock or early releasing, so it gives you a lot of confidence. If you don't have a birdie bag, that's definitely something that I'd look into getting, especially in the summer. It's constantly, you'll see it in a lot of pros' hands. So that is about it. I'm touring this year. I'm hoping to see everyone out there. If you see me out at a course, out at a club, please feel free to approach me. Any women, I know I play with a lot of women during Melinda's Women's Days in Ontario, but if you ever want to have just a personal round, not even necessarily to teach you anything, just to chat. If you have any questions about being a pro, how do I know when I move up, those kind of things, I'm here for you. So I'm happy to be touring this year. I feel like I'm very lucky to have some great sponsors, Top Link Disc Golf and True North Productions. So look out for me on the course this year. I'll see you out there, and I will bring cookies.